think we're live. It says we're live, Stephen.
I think we're online. I think we're live. So good afternoon, Frankston. It's turned out from what was a fairly chilly start to the day, it has turned out to be really quite a wonderful day. I've been out there letterboxing with two of my children. So you'll see more of this going around town now. So if you do see me walking down the street, do feel free to say hello. Obviously, if you're out there campaigning, you can't door knock. You can letterbox, and you can only do it during the 2 hours of permitted exercise during the day, but definitely no door knocking. Some people seem to have forgotten that. Anyway, putting that aside, Brad Hill is joining us now, which is great. He did have a computer issue and had to do a full system restart. Welcome, Brad. Great to have you back with us. Today really feels like the proper start of the campaign. Before I introduce our additional guest today, we have Justin Turner, who's now joining us on our Facebook Lives. Welcome, Justin. I'll get you to introduce yourself in just a little moment. But just before we give Justin a few minutes to talk about himself, I've received a lot of questions, comments, and concerns about some things that happened on Friday. I just want to reassure everyone that it's in hand, but I also want to make it very clear that out of respect for the other candidate, I won't be getting into the details of it. I have offered them a right of reply. If they choose to utilise that, that's up to them. But I think it's probably enough said on that matter. In saying that, the discussion around government engagement was an excellent discussion. I certainly found it very rewarding. I've had some very positive feedback from that as well. So please, if you were concerned that you'd missed it, it is back up online, and you're welcome to watch it. Anyway, we're back for the Sunday sessions. Again, relaxed. We're not getting into particular policy areas. There's a few things that I know the people who are joining us today are keen to talk about. But Justin Turner, candidate for the Northwest Ward, along with Sue Baker. Justin, how about you take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself and let us know a bit more about you and what you hope to achieve in the Northwest Ward.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. So I'm a Frankston North resident. I've been in the area since 2012. I'm also the director of a small business, which is an estate agency, and have been in that vocation for about 11 years. Prior to that, I was a regional manager in IT&T across Victoria and Tasmania. I was involved in the formation of the pilot project of the first youth consultation and participation model, and I volunteered there for 10,000 hours or 10 years. Which was involving the youth of our community in making direct involvement in decisions at a local level. Throughout my career, I've worked with development town planning, addressing social issues, not only as a part of my vocation, but as a part of my volunteering. And I think where that sort of places me, it brings me the ability to offer a unique insight into the challenges of the end user and investment. In terms of community involvement, I'd like to see the foundation of a youth task force, which is what I just mentioned. Later years across Australia, Canada, and the United States. Again, sort of involving the young people in key decision making and participation across a wide variety of council issues, emphasising again on the consultation and participation with results-driven outcomes. So in terms of why I'm running, my focus is predominantly on tighter and relevant budgeting in the city, 20-year planning footprint and zoning. And when I say planning, I don't just mean the buildings that are going up, planning for services as well. I'd like to review and obviously support and make sure that it's relevant. I'd like an assessment of council for both sort of long renewal or repurpose. So then we're maximising our use and revenue. And I'd like to see some incentives placed to promote job creation and expansion through the strategic planning. So I haven't given you a full couple of minutes, but that's in basis where I'm looking at the moment.
Great, thank you, Justin. And you've also got a Facebook campaign page that people can find you on, and you've also got a website as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, my internet's not really great at the moment.
No, that's
I'm
okay.
running everything predominantly through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look, that's something I found very, very challenging, being only in the sort of online space as opposed to being able to get down and in and amongst the community.
Yeah, and look, that's a big challenge. Thank you very much for that, Justin. And what I might do is when you're actually responding to a question or providing a comment, maybe flick your video off just whilst you're talking and then flick it back on again, because it might just help with the bandwidth issues, because it's probably more important people can hear you rather than see you. And we've just proven our point.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Not a problem, but thanks very much for that, Justin. So I'm just picking up on that issue of campaigning. Today or this weekend really does feel like the start of the campaign in earnest. I know there's been lots of candidates out letterboxing. Oddly enough, nobody's letterboxed my post box yet. Might be because there's a sign with my name on it at the front. Anyway, so Sue, really strange time to be campaigning. Can't really get out and talk to people. How have you found it?
Yeah, no, it is a very interesting and a different time to be doing what is essentially a community engagement exercise, and really talking to people and meeting more people and new people and having conversations. So it's harder to do that. So we're all pivoting to a different way of connecting. So I think it's been interesting now. All the nominations are in as of Tuesday last week, and we're starting to see everybody emerge. It's interesting how different people are approaching it. For example, you guys are talking about letterboxing and DLing. That's something that I've chosen not to do. And then that sort of raises the question of why people make different decisions. So it might be useful for people to understand why they'll see different things from different people.
Yeah.
All campaigns are self-funded, and as an independent in the Northwest Ward, I did hear a lady talk about her experience in the 2016 campaign. I think she was up in Hume, and she said she'd set a budget of $750 for her campaign, and at that election had gone mainly through social media.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting benchmark for me to think, okay, I wonder if I could come in under that for the whole of my campaign. So yes, social media's brilliant. I've just designed some posters, which I'm really, really pleased with, and that'll probably get translated into some core flutes. Yes, that's my outlet, I guess. Social media here on Facebook and Instagram, posters, core flutes, and lots of calling, of people. So anyway, that's for starters. I'm sure I'll chime back in.
And just out of curiosity, the background that you've got today, Sue.
Yes, so this is the Pines Flora and Fauna Reserve. I managed to get lost there the other day. I took my bike in, and apart from getting stuck in all those fabulous sandy tracks, which were great, the scenery was just spectacular. And you won't be able to see it on this picture, but in the background, you can just see the sea when you're up at the top of that reserve, which is really cool. So yeah, so that's part of my patch, which is great.
Lovely, lovely.
Well, mine and Justin's patch, I should
yours
say.
And Justin's patch. So
yes,
Thank you. We can share.
So have you and Justin actually had a conversation about collaborating and how you might work together?
Well, we've certainly had a chat around our shared views and approaches, and just some of the issues around campaigning. And I think that's, I'd love to talk to more of the candidates across all the wards, because everyone is coming to this very slightly differently, with different views and approaches, and that in itself is really interesting, just to see who you might be working with potentially.
Yeah. Okay, great. Look, I've got behind me, I've got another photo of the West Ward. I do like to troll Oliver Hill a little bit. I was hoping I might have found Oliver Hill's pot of gold that's at the end of that rainbow that we popped up yesterday, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to get it yet without getting my feet wet. But today's really been the kickoff for campaigning for me. I think there's about 8 or 10 volunteers that I've taken leaflets to today. People will be aware from one of my social media posts today that Peter and Brad and I have agreed to share the letterboxing effort. But it's not just about that. The letterboxing is just to remind you to have a look at people. I really do encourage every single resident, every single voter in Frankston City to research their candidates, because there's never been a more important election than this one for the future of Frankston. And you really want to have a good look at the people who are running in your ward and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to have to jump back and forth between Canberra or not, or whether they've got stuff in the background that's, any of those kinds of things as well. Peter, how's your campaign kicked off?
Well, pretty good, Stephen. I've got a couple of very good collaborators, I must admit. One guy, in fact, when I thought about me collating flyers, said, well, listen, I've got 5 children. Hell, we might be able to help out there. And I'm all for using children as slave labour, and if they're willing, if they're willing in these incidents. But yeah, certainly lots of collating, or to use that even better word, interleaving of flyers. I've basically been doing pretty much that and organising others to do letterboxing, which they have started, which is great. And this afternoon was good for that. So they would have done their couple of hours of that. It's been interesting. I think it's picking up on what perhaps Sue said and yourself. The idea of candidates talking to each other is a good idea. We may be working together. We actually want to work together if we get there. And the other big point that I'll pick up on what you said, Stephen, because I absolutely agree with it, is that this is an extremely important election for a few reasons for Frankston. Coming out of the COVID cloud, having people there who have the basically background knowledge and enthusiasm and competence to actually really go ahead and make a difference this time, because we need to more than ever. So I hope everybody looks at flyers, and they can look nice and all the rest of it, but go to the candidate if you've got questions, for sure. Go to their website, Facebook page, opportunity to ring them up or email, do it and ask questions, because you want to know about their background, their experience, etc. So it is very important. And the only other thing I say is, yes, I would have loved to get out to the Flora and Fauna Reserve today. As I was saying to Sue earlier, I used to take as a field zoology and ecology students up there. It's like beware of the tiger snakes, guys, but otherwise it's a great natural environment to walk around, along with all the other reserves around Frankston. Fantastic. And some of my students are responsible for pulling out weeds in the past and picking up papers. And do we really have to do this to get our qualification? I said, well, no, you don't. But, it's a good thing. So hopefully I've motivated them to do that in the future.
Thank you, Peter. And Brad, how's your campaign kicked off?
Hard work. Lots of letterboxing. It's a big ward. There's a lot of work to do, and it's a race to try to have as much material in letterboxes as you can.
And have you you've been out pounding the pavements this weekend, Brad?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And talking to people, you meet people at the letterbox in their front yards. They want to know what you're doing and what you're about. So yeah, it's good that people are interested.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that struck me in terms of a lot of the feedback and comments that I've received is there's definitely a lot more interest from people around what's happening this time around than they have previous elections. I have to say that in previous local government elections, I haven't paid much attention to them myself. But I think we all know why this one is so important. Interestingly, I think it was the last meeting of council, or was it the meeting before? I'm trying to remember now. There was a notice of motion that was put forward around transparency of campaigning and transparency of donations and things like that. I haven't seen much actually happen around that, from what I can tell. There was a commitment made by the councillors. They asked all the other candidates to or encouraged the other candidates to do that. I certainly put a note out yesterday, I think it was, or was it this morning? I can't remember, about donations and so on. Any thoughts from you, Justin?
In terms of the transparency thing, I think that just comes down to basic integrity. But in response to your question was around the campaigning, was it? Or was it
yes, it was around the notice of motion on campaign donations and special interests and so on.
Yeah, good. Sorry, I'm just making sure I don't go off on a tangent. Look, coming back to what I said, I think that's just basic integrity at the end of the day. And one thing I noticed on there, and it's not sort of a forum for an attack, was what I read out of that particular motion was it was solely around the candidates should be, sort of declaring any directorships and things like that, which is fantastic. But I would have thought that it's appropriate to be across the board. Now, I didn't see, and I'm happy to be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see anything that was focused internally. It was only externally.
I think so.
About what candidates had involvement or, any potential conflicts outside of sort of the incumbents. And again, that's not an attack. That was just an observation.
Yeah. Sue?
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I liked your post yesterday on putting up how this campaign, what that looks like for people, what people are actually doing, whether there are donations, whether there aren't. I've talking to some other people in other council electorates, and I know a number of candidates are supported by certain parties, and there's a lot of investment going into them, which is great. It's all declared. That's just an opportunity people have to get support. What I'm learning now, I'm in it though, is that there are very different amounts of money that are invested into campaigning. So for example, people talk about phone banking, and I presume that they're able to buy lists of telephone numbers for people in the wards, and then parties are able to phone people. I mean, that's well outside my reach as an approach, but it's all part of a strategy for some councils, which fine, it's all, it's above board and part of the process. Yes.
Great. Peter, Brad?
Yeah, well, Bob, you said my name first, so I'll go first.
Okay.
I was actually going to start off with, I'll say a few things and I'll be interested in Brad's opinion too, because he's had some experience with this. Look, I'll take up what, I also agree with what Justin said. Yeah, well spotted, Justin. I spotted the same thing. It was all about candidates, they talk about other candidates should be open and transparent, etc. In their campaigning, what they do, there certainly didn't seem to be much internal reflection, or they weren't included. When we say you should be open and candid about and transparent about what you're doing, it was all of us. What about the councillors themselves? There's some who are having another go. They should be as well. It was a great approach from Stephen. I agree. I think I'll put up all those millions of dollars that I'm getting too, which, of course, it all comes down to 0, 0, 0. I like Stephen's, the huge amount, Stephen. I mean, that big zero there. That was, very, very good, very explicit too. We could probably all put that up. When we're talking about funds and everything, and Brad will comment in a minute, but might confirm that this is an after thing. I really like the idea of real-time disclosure of what's coming in, particularly if it's over certain amounts. I mean, if your cousin gives you $20, well, I don't know, fine. But if somebody's funding you, if a political party's giving you money, or if some big business is, or whatever, I don't know, a union, who knows? I mean, this happens more in state higher levels of government, of course, but I think real-time disclosure is a good thing. I mean, somebody could be really highly bankrolled to do a huge amount, and when will the population find out about that? Because we know marketing is a big thing, especially with this. So I'd be interested to know about that, and yeah, Brad might know.
On mute, sorry. Yeah. I use Zoom a lot at work, and we're strongly encouraged to be on mute when we're not speaking. But anyway, yeah, look, the current laws are that every candidate after the election has to submit a declaration, and you're only required to declare any financial assistance of $500 or more. So, yeah, look, let me declare my campaign's entirely self-funded. Look, I work full time. I do have a decent income, and so I'm able to get my own leaflets and whatever printed up. But yeah, look, it would be nice for the voters to know that before the vote, rather than find out later on there was a property developer or whoever provided, $8,000 to a candidate or whatever. I honestly don't believe anything like that's happening in Frankston. I can't detect a candidate out there that seems to be spending huge amounts of money, and I'm happy to see that. I do know of one candidate that's had a couple of donations equal to the $500 threshold, and they'll have to declare that afterwards. And incidentally, those declarations are available to the public once they're done. They're filled out at the council office, and they hold them as records.
Yeah, great, thank you. And as I said, as I've said all along, I'll be making sort of declarations on an ongoing basis anyway. And certainly if there is, for example, gifts in kind that I get, I'll certainly be making disclosing those in real time as well, because I think it's important that everyone understands what kind of support people are getting. At the moment, so far, I've only had to rely on my own funds, and I won't be asking for funds from anyone. And in fact, given the increase in domestic violence as a result of COVID restrictions and the stress that households are on, I'd encourage people to actually donate to a local domestic violence support agency as well. I've been hearing some quite horrific stories about what's been going on in that particular space, particularly people who aren't eligible to access normal supports either. So somebody phoned me about that yesterday. Great, fantastic. Speaking of COVID-19, we've seen the numbers have come down. I think the average is now, the rolling average is something like 22 or 22.9 new cases a day. What are the things you're looking forward to the most now that we can relax a little bit more? But also to what's your understanding of what some of these changes are and how they might make our lives easier, but certainly they'll enable a lot of people who have not been going to work to get back to work as well.
A Palmer and pot, that's what I want.
A Palmer and pot. I think that might still be a little way off.
I want to go out for a Palmer and pot, or 2 or 3 pots even.
Is there a particular Palmer and pot you can recommend in Frankston, Brad?
Oh, absolutely. I like to go to Humdinger. They do a really good chicken parma. They're also their hot wings are really nice as well. I do have a taste of spicy food, and they also do very good hamburgers. So they're not sponsoring me at all. I give them a plug. I give them a plug because they're very friendly, and the food's good and reasonably priced.
Brilliant, so, thank you, Brad. Justin, what are you looking forward to?
Sorry, was that me?
Yes, that was you, Justin.
That was me, sorry. I'm looking forward. I think Brad touched on a topic that's very, very close to home. I am absolutely looking forward to going to the Dainton Tap House in Carrum Downs. It's a place
Oh,
I found by accident some years ago, and I'm happy to find it by accident as often as I possibly can. But look, from I guess looking at a sense of normality, I'm looking forward to sort of go back to some of those things that we really took for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing is work. I'm really looking forward to be able to go back to work. Be it in a limited capacity, but that's certainly something I in the mental health space. Going back to some sort of regular routine is absolute plus. Or just I suppose having that little bit of freedom and do some more things outside of your home than what we've perhaps been accustomed to over the last what it's been now 8 weeks.
Yeah, longer.
9 weeks. So
Yeah.
For me, it'll be a bonus to get up in the morning and actually know what day it is.
Yeah, I think that'll make a big difference for people as well, because I certainly know that I actually have to put on a work branded polo shirt every weekday just to remind myself that it's a work day, because every other day, and the only reason I know it's different is because on the weekends I don't do Zoom meetings, except that now I am, because we're campaigning.
That's right.
So that's made it even more confusing as well. But I'm actually looking forward to being able.
The other thing, Stephen.
Yeah.
Sorry. The other thing is, as you can see behind me, I'll be really, really pleased when I don't have to sit in my Faraday cage anymore, and I can go back to an office that actually has painted walls.
Yes.
I like that description, Faraday cage.
So what are you looking forward to?
Well,
go ahead, Justin.
No, sorry, you go, sir.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say just catching up with friends that are further afield than just within the 5K. I've got different friends, obviously, up all around all sides of the bay, actually. So, and I'd love to bike. So I'd actually been getting on the train and heading up to Caulfield, and then catching up with some friends, going for a coffee, then hopping on the bike and coming back down the bay on the bike paths, and just doing things like that, just getting out and about and going somewhere, as opposed to, as much as it's nice going around in circles in the ward, it does sometimes feel literally that you're literally going, well, you are going around in circles, and that's a bit of a metaphor for life at the moment. So expanding horizons and getting out and about would be great. Plus trying all the restaurants and getting to see more of the shops locally, and just just having a bit of a vibe locally. That would be nice, just to feel that.
And there are a couple of really fantastic restaurants and cafes in Seaford as well. I know I've got a couple of favourites there. There's one on the Nepean Highway, the name of which I forget. And then there's the is it the Spanish one that's near the railway line?
Yes. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. Peter, what are you looking forward to?
Okay, well, just very quickly on that theme, there's the Riviera. I like that. I like it down there. Damn good price, but they have really good chefs there, really good food. But besides that, yes, I think we're still with the 5K at the moment. Just been interesting. Certainly for a while I was told friends I'm getting on the motorcycle, and there was, unfortunately, a little bit like a fly in a bottle. It was basically vroom, 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 around the 5 kilometres sort of radius, and then doing some grocery shopping. But of course, the bubble has been a good thing for me, because the bubble, if you have a bubble outside the 5K, you can go straight there, and it's outside the 5K. So that's been a little bit better. But really, what I like about the less restrictions, what is it from tomorrow? What I like is that people are important to me. I do like the idea of being able over and gather outside. I understand less than 5 people and 2 families. So that's a great thing. I do like that, and easing out, that's going to be a wonderful thing to be able to do that. So combine the bubble with that. I'm pretty happy. Yeah. The food thing is important to me too, of course. So Yeah.
I'm certainly looking forward to the reopening of places like Los Argentinos, which is up on Beach Street, I think it is.
Yeah.
So that's usually a kind of birthday treat, but I think we might sneak in there once we're allowed. The other two things I'm really looking forward to, one's getting a haircut, because we're all starting to get some quite dramatic mullets going on. And the other thing I think that's probably made me sing and dance a little bit more today than anything else is primary school kids all going back together, because it's just been a real challenge in our household, combining homeworking and homeschooling. But I have to say, full respect to the teachers at all the Frankston schools and the way they have worked incredibly hard to not just keep our kids engaged, but to also, in many respects, look after their own kids at the same time. So I don't know how they've done it. I've had my taste of being a homeschool teacher. I now know which career I don't want to do in the future, and I've got full respect for the teachers that work in our community.
Can I just put a quick plug in for TAFE teachers too? Because I work at TAFE, and I've just got to say that teaching. Okay, we can say this is a nice Zoom meeting, isn't it? You know, we've got 3 or 4 people, or if we have a meeting of adults, imagine the teacher, that both school and TAFE, you've got 15 or 20 students and you're doing a Zoom meeting. Mm-hmm. Now, it has special challenges. They've risen to the occasion. These people have worked tirelessly to do that, and I have great respect for them. So when people and directors and CEOs talk about the team that has brought us through this, I always say, yep, and what a big team it is. What a big team it is, because right down, particularly at the teaching level, there's been huge efforts and it's worked well. So hats off to them.
Yes, indeed. Now, I'm just going to quickly come to some of the comments. Oliver Hill is actually asking if skywriting is permitted under the COVID restrictions. I don't know of anyone who can afford skywriting. However, we might see if we can find out for you. I suspect it might be okay as long as there's only one person in the aircraft. But I'm going to take that one on notice. If that's your intent in terms of conquering the West Ward, Oliver, full marks to you as well.
Yeah. Right.
The couple of other comments and questions that come through. Hannah Swinnerton has asked if we're going to have something in around mental health. Look, I think, as we come out of COVID-19, mental health is clearly going to be one of the priorities, and certainly for young people as well as everyone else. But I know there's a particular concern there. We are planning on having a specific discussion around mental health. I can't tell you exactly when it is because we've got a few things locked in at the moment, but we're going to have a specific discussion around that and what council can do to help support better mental health. And Glenn Cooper has agreed to join us for that discussion as well. Oliver Hill is looking forward to a beer and barbecue on Grand Final Day. I'm sure many people are. Do we know, are we still getting the Grand Final public holiday, and we'll be able to have more than 5 people?
I don't think we are. I thought I heard like a week or 2 ago that we're not getting the Grand Final holiday because it's not down here. Correct me if I hope I'm wrong. I hope
you're wrong.
I thought it was still going ahead, Peter, based on, and I won't give them a plug which radio station I listen to, but there's no music if that helps. My understanding from that particular one is that the public holiday was still going ahead despite the match being moved into state.
Yeah.
It's in October. It's in October now.
It's in October. Okay.
Yeah.
So we might be able to combine that with a celebration of the election outcome and the grand final and a barbecue at the same time.
Or commiserations of the
Or a commiseration party.
That's right.
I'm having 2 parties. One is campaign's over, let's have a drink. That's the first party. And who knows about the second one? It could be commiseration or whatever. Yeah.
Now, Oliver Hill's noted that it's going to be a night grand final. Now, I don't normally talk much about AFL because I have to admit I'm a member of the Melbourne Rebels Rugby Union Football Club. Though I do notionally follow Carlton. I know a lot of people will be angry about that, but I do beg your forgiveness. Night grand final, really interesting idea. I've been to lots of night matches for the rugby. Is this going to be? How do we think this is going to play out? And if it does work, what does it mean with the new light towers going in at the Dolphins' home ground?
The light towers in Frankston actually, I reckon that's a terrific thing. The lights that they're installing are what they call broadcast quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It allows a game there to be televised. They're not just lights; they're LED, but they're of a level high enough, for a televised match. So. Even if there isn't anything televised there, I think there's a great opportunity for Frankston here, to start doing, Friday night football, for example. I mean, that could become a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great thing, and I think it's great that they're huge banks of LEDs. I may be biased because I'm a member of the club, and it'd be great for me. I could just walk down on Friday nights. So, all for it. I think it will help to reinvigorate the club, which was saved, a couple of years ago, as we know, and it was a tremendous public support to save that club. Really pleased it was, and I look forward to walking down to games and walking home again. It'd be great.
What's the reason for it being a night game for the AFL Grand Final for those people that?
It's all about money.
Okay, so TV. Coverage.
It's all about ratings, exactly. It's all about TV.
Okay.
They've been wanting to do it for a while. There's been huge resistance here in Melbourne from the fans, and now that it's interstate for the first time ever, they've come in for their chop, basically.
Okay. Good.
And that's if I may say,
I think it could also open up games. Sorry, Brad.
After you, Justin.
No, all I was going to say is I think it could certainly open up the games if the night matches became a thing, even at a local level, for those people that are time poor and sort of avid supporters. Look, I certainly look at it in terms of it's lower on the list of my priorities, so I don't generally go to matches as often as I'd like to. It'd mean that people like me, people like a lot of us here, could actually attend matches.
Yeah,
I became a member of that club 8 years ago now. I've been a member. At one point I joined the committee and I ended up as the president of the club for a little while too. However, what attracted me about the club was not just a great group of people down there, but it's the next level up from the local league, right? So you watch a game down there and there's AFL listed players, right? The reserve teams of the AFL teams appearing down at that ground here in Frankston. You can get down there, you can have a can of full strength beer, you can get right up against the fence. I'm not stuck up in the stands in a plastic seat with lukewarm mid-strength beer and a plastic cup. You can have the kids on the ground at half time, play a bit of kick to kick. At quarter time, you can be out on the ground. You can listen to the coach's huddle. It's like footy used to be when I was a kid. And I see you nodding your head there, Peter. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's what it was like when we were kids. AFL today is completely different, and I don't have to go up to Docklands or the MCG. It's right here in Frankston. Right? So I urge everyone when the season kicks off next year, we'll have the new lights. The team will be underway, and it's a day out. It's a great day out, and you can have a lunch in the rooms and overlook the game, and maybe a Palmer and pot. Who knows?
Who knows? I actually think there's a whole discussion for one of our Tuesday Fridays actually around community sport and how we can also get some of the community clubs, particularly the bigger ones, working together in support of each other. I think the lights do present a really good opportunity. The only thing I'd really like to see happen is AFLW games being played in Frankston as well, because it's not all just about the boys' sport either.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely up for watching the women's game. I haven't seen one since it started at the national level, but really keen to see that. My first introduction to AFL was when it was VFL. So that's going way back, and I think I was supporting the, dare I say it, the West Coast Eagles at the time, because they were the people from out of town. Oh, look at that, you've all cringed. But that was a long time ago. But I love watching live sport, so anything that we have in Frankston to make that available, and as Brad's saying, you make it a social event, drink, something to eat, it's convivial, all age groups. I think it's fabulous, the more sports we can encourage. I've actually spent more time on a basketball court. That's my exposure to sport for the last sort of crikey 18 years probably, since the sport my son plays professionally. So I'd be very keen to hear how the developments will be going for our basketball stadium in town when they come about. So yes, so very up for a conversation on sports on one session with everyone. And
well, I have to say, with you being a West Coast supporter, so I'm surprised you're not running in the West Ward with Oliver.
Well, now I've outed myself. Maybe Oliver and I should team up.
I think so.
We all have the things we need to hide on occasion. I remember my father-in-law, rest in peace, he actually barracked for West Coast when they first came to competition, just as an anti-thing, to sort of to say to everybody else, well, you shouldn't be so snobby about it just being Victorian sort of thing. But then they were so parochial, he changed his mind the following years. I've lived over there. They are parochial, very parochial.
So just looking ahead and conscious of time as well, but what are you guys looking forward to in terms of the coming week? I know I've taken a week off work to really kind of get stuck into the campaigning and to talk to as many people as I can in a very COVID safe way, and only during the 2 hours of exercise whilst letterboxing. But what do you guys have planned for this week, and how do you hope it's going to unfold for you?
Well, if I can jump in there, one thing I'd like to say is just thank you to everybody who's already engaged with both my Facebook site, but anybody's Instagram or Facebook account. It really is good to be asked some tough questions, some curious questions. It really helps me think about what it is I want to say to people, but also asking questions back. So I'm not sure how everyone else is traveling, but if there's a phone number, a contact email address, or a messenger, please just contact candidates. We really want to hear from people, and I say a big thank you to those people that have already done that. And yes, I guess lots of community organisations, we're going to get lots of phone calls in the coming weeks from probably 34 candidates that are out there. So that's going to be interesting for people to field us as we're trying to reach out to other people. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and getting some posters out and about. And I don't know whether I did notice on someone else's, again, another council area, someone put a request out for anybody who wants to host a call flute, can they message the candidates? So again, if there's somebody out there that's keen to message 34 posters or a couple of call flutes, it'd be great to know that, because it's hard to find people to do that. Anyway, that's what I'll be doing this week.
I think that's a really good point, Sue. And if you really want to see change in Frankston, even if you don't necessarily know the candidate particularly well, but you think that they'd be a good person to sit on council, is if you're willing to host a call flute, please do so. And some candidates have already agreed to share certain call flute sites as well, and that's also a good thing for local democracy as well. Peter, how's your week looking ahead?
Yeah, I was nearly going to ask what the question was, because Yes. Okay. So flyers. Okay. Probably the collating mostly done now, but certainly walking the streets and doing that. My appeal is once again to people to really reach out to candidates. Okay, there's call flutes and flyers, but look at those and little A3s or whatever posters. Look at those. Certainly read it, but you need to find out a bit more. There's certainly a lot of things out, and you'll find that there's a fair bit of similar messaging amongst some of them. And you probably need to go a little bit deeper than what it says. There's some dense messaging on some call flutes, I know that. Go a little bit deeper and find out who the person is, what experience they have, etc. And ask hard questions, ask anything to any of us, to any candidate, because that's what counts. Just put a little bit of time in to do that. So because I know that a lot of people have reached out to me. That's the saying, that reaching out's one of those phrases now that everybody's reaching out. But to give me information about some things that have happened in council in the past. And I'm just talking about decisions that have been made and where monies have been spent and ins and outs of what actually happened. A lot of the time, there's a lot more in it than what people know, even generally. So, we're sort of, in a way, a bit like, opposition. We can't delve too deeply into Treasury things at the moment, but we will need to when we get in. So to find out a bit more, reach out to candidates and ask the hard questions.
Yep, great. And Brad.
Yeah, just more of the same. The wards are big. There's a lot of residences. There's a lot of leaflets to be handed out. So continuing to work on that. Really, I'm not allowed to door knock. I'm not allowed to shake hands and press the flesh and whatnot. The campaign this time is rather different to other ones we've had, but I am encouraged that we're still having an election and that democracy will still be served.
Great, thank you. And Justin.
Well, I think everyone's pretty much covered up, or covered it off, I should say, not covered it up. That's probably poor form to talk about that at the moment while I put him out. No, look, I'll be concentrating on getting my call flutes out. I've had a few delays with actually getting them here. They are from Victoria, but the sort of transit's been the biggest killer. And definitely pounding the pavement with my flyers and whatnot. Look, I think everybody's touched on the engagement level and the increase of engagement. It's something, whether or not it's something that's always occurred, or whether or not that I'm just more aware because I'm running. That people are asking questions, and they're asking some really hard questions, which is fantastic. The sort of nitty-gritty ones that are usually sort of glazed over. But I'll be focusing as well on continuing my engagement with the smaller businesses in the area as well, because the sort of constant messages that they've been without a voice for some time. So that's probably one of the highest engagement sectors that I've had.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, Justin. And look, I do want to put a quick call out to anyone who's volunteering for any candidate. It's a big commitment, and I just want to say thank you to all of those people for participating and helping to make democracy work. Doesn't matter who you vote for at the end of the day. Well, it does matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter who your preferred candidate is, but by looking at who they are and helping to get the message out there is really important. Because as we said at the start, this is probably the single most important election we've faced in Frankston for a very long time. And just to give you an idea, our oldest volunteer is 80.
Yes.
And is going to be walking the streets. So please be kind. And our youngest volunteer is 8. So, that just shows you how important it is that across our community, we are kind to the volunteers who are out there letterboxing. And we're also kind to those people who have chosen to put call flutes up as well. And for that, I just wanted to say thank you to them as well. final comment for today's session, and then we're back on Tuesday, back into the policy discussion. We're talking about the role of council and the environment. Justin, I hope you're able to join us for that. We might have to have a chat offline about how we improve your connection. But we're going to be joined by David Cross. Now, David is not he's not a candidate, but he is the chair of the Frankston Environment Friends Network. And I know that he has been seeking feedback from the different environmental groups across the city for the kinds of questions that they might want to ask. I should also flag as well that, as I've said previously, I have reached out to candidates across the city, and I'm pleased to say that a couple more have come back to me now as well and are keen to engage in discussion and debate. We may even get our first one from North East Ward at some point during the week, which is great. But thank you very much. Final comment from you, Sue?
Just a thank you for turning up and tuning in to these sessions. It's great to have this platform. Stephen's doing a great job of coordinating us all to be here and show up. We've got some good topics coming up for debate over the next few weeks. Mental health one, definitely. I think that's a great one. Just responding to Hannah there. And any other suggestions, that would be a great feedback from people in the community if there is something specifically that we've not covered off yet. Environment, mental health, young mayors.
Yeah, we've got one plugged in with the former youth mayor as well to talk about youth policy.
Yep. So, but it'd be great to know if there's something specific that someone in the community wants us to cover to let you know, Stephen, or any of us, in fact. That would be good. Yeah.
Great. Peter, final reflection from you today? Yeah,
sure. Look, I'm really looking forward to the next session on the environment. It's a particular interest of mine with my background. It's really important. It'll be interesting to see how our guest sees things. And also, I'm particularly interested in how we can support our friends groups. So I think they're very important. You see them out there, they're hardworking. And I think they really deserve support for the good of the natural environment and the built environment as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Justin.
Just going to stop my video. Look, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here today, and definitely, Stephen, you've reached out to me on a number of occasions to come and join you on sort of views. But look, definitely looking forward to the sort of topics that are coming up. And I think probably the most important thing to throw out there, and I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, is to make sure to pass the message on to everybody to make sure that they're engaging with the candidates. Ask those questions, ask the hard questions, certainly look at what their views are on any important topics to you, and keep the conversation going, which is the most important part.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Justin. And over to you, Brad.
Yeah, look, I just ask everyone out there, the voters, to think about who you're voting for. I'd like them to assess all the candidates. I'd like them to read the candidate statements. I'd like them to take the election seriously. I know it's difficult with council elections trying to understand who's who in the zoo. There's a big list of people that's, a lot of them you've probably never heard of, but, reach out to them. You can speak to them, you can ring them. A lot of them have provided email addresses and telephone numbers. Do your homework, your vote counts, and do what you think is right for Frankston at the end of the day. And vote for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Knowing that you were going to do that, I specifically wore this t-shirt for you today. So vote one McDonald's. There are 3 seats on council.
That's right.
So, that's free beer. That's a free beer,
You've become a creature of habit, Brad. Look, thank you very much, everyone. Have a fantastic week, Frankston. Hopefully the weather has shifted back to the sunny side as well. Look forward to pounding the streets, and feel free to have a chat if you run into one of us as well. Remember, Sue and Justin will be out and about in the Northwest Ward Brad, Peter, and myself will be out and about the South Ward. But look, we're really excited and really excited about a fresh start for Frankston. So thank you very much. Stay safe.
Awesome.
And we will talk to you all again on Tuesday about the environment.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See ya.